The organ in the Vincent family chapel sounds bored, as if even the music does not want to be here. Lucy Hart stands at the far end of the red carpet in a wedding dress that is a size too big. The bodice gapes at her collarbones, the skirt drags through dust. The bouquet in her hands is a bunch of tired roses, petals already browning. There are no bridesmaids, no friends, no laughter. Only the quiet hum of rich people waiting for a show. At the front, beneath the cold gray light, the groom does not stand. Theo Vincent, heir to the Vincent Group, lies in a sleek black wheelchair. His skin is as pale as the hospital sheets under the blanket. A nurse has taped in 4-line to his hand and tucked it away, trying to hide the tubes from the few cameras pointed their way. His eyes are closed. His chest rises and falls in slow, shallow rhythm. The priest looks from his Bible to the first row, unsure how to marry a man who cannot answer. In that first row sits Lucy's stepmother, Miranda Hart, in a navy coat that costs more than anything Lucy owns. Her red lipstick is sharp as a wound. As Lucy walks past, Miranda leans over so close that perfume stings Lucy's eyes. "Chin up, Lucy," she whispers, smiling without warmth. "If you pretend to be a loving wife, maybe they will let you stay in the big house after your sick husband dies." Lucy keeps walking, fingers tightening on the stems until thorns bite her skin. On the Vincent side, relatives fill the pews like rows of black crows. Men in sharp suits. Women dripping diamonds. Their voices are soft enough that the priest can pretend not to hear, but loud enough for Lucy. "A Hart girl? Really? I heard they went broke. No wonder they are selling the daughter as a bonus. She is just here to cheer him up. Once he is gone, we will divide things properly. We will see how long she lasts. Live widowhood is a long job." Lucy bites down on the inside of her cheek until she tastes blood. The laughter that floats up is not joyful. It is greedy. The organ hits a sour note. The priest clears his throat. "Dearly beloved," he begins, voice shaking. "We are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony." Lucy has never felt less holy. She stops halfway down the aisle. Her hands tremble. She feels Miranda's glare burning into her back. "What are you doing?" Miranda hisses. "Keep walking." Lucy looks up at the stained glass window. Outside, winter presses flat against Manhattan. Inside, colored light spills over Theo's still face. For a heartbeat she wonders what he was like before the accident, and the illness turned him into a body on a schedule. She wonders if he would have laughed too. She forces herself to take the last steps. Up close, Theo looks even younger, lashes dark against his cheeks. There is no ring on his hand yet. Lucy leans down and pretends to adjust the blanket so she can speak into his ear. "Mr. Vincent," she whispers, "I do not know if you can hear me. This is not how I imagined my wedding. I am sure this is not how you imagined yours." Her throat tightens, but the words keep coming. "They think I am here to wait for you to die," she says softly. "I will not let them treat you like furniture, and I will not stay quiet while they step on me." A faint breath escapes his lips. His fingers twitch on the armrest, almost too small to see. A hand clamps on Lucy's arm. Miranda yanks her back a half step. "What do you think you are doing, whispering to a man who cannot hear you?" Miranda hisses. "Smile. We are selling you, not starting a fight." For 20 years Lucy has lowered her eyes when this woman spoke. For 20 years she has swallowed insults to keep a roof over her head. Today, something breaks. Lucy lifts her chin. "I am not a product," she says, voice clear enough to carry. "And I am not here for your payday." The nearest Vincents fall silent. Miranda's smile cracks. "What did you say?" Miranda spits. Lucy peels her fingers off her arm and steps back to Theo's side. "You told me to keep my head down and let them call me names," she says. "You told me to pretend I did not hear when they laughed about me being a good luck charm for a dying man. Newsflash. I hear just fine." Soft gasps ripple along the pews. The priest looks like he wants the floor to swallow him. In the second row, a tall man in a charcoal suit leans forward. Arthur Vincent, Theo's uncle, studies Lucy with thin amusement. "Fiery for a discount bride," he murmurs. "She will burn out in a week." He does not realize Lucy hears that too. She turns back to the wheelchair. Her face softens for a moment. "Whatever they say," she tells Theo, "just for him. I will do my best to take care of you. For me, not for them." Again, his fingers move. This time she is sure she feels it. Her pulse stutters. Before she can react, Arthur rises and glides down the aisle. "Enough dramatics," he says smoothly. "The doctors have been clear." Theo is barely aware. "Father, please continue." Our guests are waiting. Lucy wants to shout that Theo moved, that he heard her. Instead she thinks of heart debts, the house, her late mother's paintings. The price of saying no. She swallows the scream and stands still while the priest stumbles through vows. She repeats words to a man who cannot answer. A ring is pushed onto Theo's hand, another onto hers. A camera flashes. By the power vested in me. The priest finally says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. No one cheers. No one throws rice. Miranda is already on her phone. Arthur is already whispering. Lucy stands beside the wheelchair and stares at the closed eyes of the man, who is now legally her husband. Under the blanket, his weak fingers curl around hers, slow but deliberate. Her breath catches. Her heart, heavy all morning, lifts just a fraction. They think this is a funeral in disguise, she thinks. Fine, let them think that. If there is even the smallest chance this man is still fighting inside his broken body, Lucy Hart is not going to let him fight alone. The Vincent estate in Westchester looks like a movie set. White stone, endless lawns, a driveway that curves forever. It smells like cut grass and old money. It does not feel like home. The morning after the wedding, Lucy wakes in a guest room that is technically hers, in a bed big enough for 4 people. The sheets smell like detergent, not like anyone. Rain taps against the windows. When she walks into the kitchen, every conversation stops. The staff stand at their stations, aprons spotless, knives shining. They stare at her like she wandered in from the wrong door. Good morning, Lucy says. Politeness is automatic. I am Lucy, Mrs. Vincent. The title feels strange. A woman with a tight bun and a clipboard lifts her chin. We were told you prefer meals in your room, Mrs. Vincent. I do not, Lucy says. I was hoping to cook breakfast. A few of the younger staff exchange. Looks like she has told a joke in a foreign language. The Vincents have a full culinary team. Bun woman says. You are not expected to participate. Lucy looks past her at the huge fridge, at the pots hanging over the island, at the spotless stove. This kitchen is 3 times bigger than the one in the Hart townhouse, where she used to fry eggs before Miranda woke up and complained about the smell. She remembers the gray nutrition shakes she saw last night, poured into Theo's feeding tube. Cold, thick, joyless. That is exactly why I want to participate, she says. Bun woman presses her lips together. Mr. Arthur has asked us to follow the current medical plan. Mr. Arthur is not my husband, Lucy replies. Theo is. Theo is the one in that bed. She raises her voice just enough for everyone to hear. If anyone has a problem with me making soup, she says, they can talk to me. No one moves. Lucy walks to the sink, washes her hands, and reaches for a cutting board. The first slice of onion rings through the quiet. By lunch, the kitchen smells like chicken and ginger. A pot bubbles gently. Lucy tastes the broth, adds a little salt, then breathes in the steam. It smells like her grandmother's tiny kitchen in Queens, cramped and loud and safe. Where did you learn to chop like that? One of the cooks mutters, watching her knife blur through carrots. Survival, Lucy says. My stepmother does not believe in cooking for people she does not like. I got good because I did not want my little brother to starve. No one asks about the brother who is not here. The tabloids already told them the Hart story. When the soup is ready, Lucy carries the tray herself. Her arms shake a little under the weight of the bowl, the bread, the small dish of fruit. 2 bodyguards in suits stand outside Theo's door. Mrs. Vincent, one says. We were told the nurse would handle Mr. Vincent's meals. Lucy smiles sweetly. You are welcome to tell Mr. Vincent his wife cannot bring him soup, she says. I will wait. They do not move. Lucy opens the door. Inside, the room is dim. Machines hum. Theo lies where he did last night, pale against blue sheets. Without the tubes he would look like he is just sleeping in. Lucy sets the tray down and pulls up a chair. Hey, she says softly. It is me again, your bargain bride. She lifts his head and tips a spoon of soup to his lips. Slowly. She murmurs. We both need you not to choke. For a second, nothing happens. Then his throat moves. He swallows. A drop of broth runs down his chin. Lucy wipes it away. Good, she says. We are going to do this 1 spoon at a time. She feeds him in silence, talking now and then about nothing important. About the rain. About the way the kitchen staff stared. About how her grandmother swore ginger could scare off death itself. The heart monitor's rhythm smooths out, numbers nudging in the right direction. Coincidence, maybe. Lucy chooses to believe in chicken soup. On her way back to the kitchen with the empty tray, a voice drips down the staircase. Well, if it is not the little nurse. Arthur descends the steps in a perfect suit, hands in his pockets. His smile is thin. Good afternoon. Lucy says. I thought the staff were supposed to carry trays, not board members. You are not quite staff. Arthur says. You are not quite family either. You are temporary. He glances at the tray. Playing house already? That is cute. Temporary or not. Lucy says. Your cousin is my husband, so I will behave like his wife. For a second his eyes harden. Theo is in no position to appreciate your devotion. He says. Do not get attached, Mrs. Vincent. Grief is messy. Lawyers are worse. I know how both work. Lucy replies quietly. They only win when the other side lies down. Arthur smiles again. Are you planning to fight me? I am planning to fight for him, she says. If that means you, then yes. He leans in so close she smells his cologne. Enjoy your project, he murmurs. When this ends, the Vincents will go back to what we have always been. And what is that? She asks. He smiles without warmth. Hungry. That afternoon Lucy finds her suitcase dumped in the pantry, half unzipped. Clothes spill out, some smeared with oil. The young maid from the morning hovers nearby, wringing her hands. I am so sorry. The girl blurts. Mr. Arthur told us to move your things, and then someone knocked it over and… It is fine, Lucy says, even though her throat burns. What is your name? Jenna. Jenna. Lucy says, folding a ruined sweater. Do me a favor. Jenna nods fast. Tell them that if they want to break me, Lucy says. They need more than a busted zipper. She looks up and smiles, small and sharp. And tell them dinner will be at 7. If they are hungry, they can come eat. If not, more for me in theology. That night, when Lucy brings Theo his soup, the hallway smells like roasted garlic and bread. When she comes back down, expecting an empty dining room, she finds Jenna and 2 other staff sitting awkwardly at the very end of the long table, plates in front of them. We thought. Jenna says, eyes wide. If you cooked anyway. Lucy laughs and sets down the last dish. Sit, she says. Eat. I am going to need allies in this house. It is a small victory. Upstairs, a man everyone has already buried sleeps with a full stomach. Downstairs, for the first time since she arrived, Lucy Hart is not at the table alone. Theo Vincent dreams of drowning in molasses. Sound comes thick and slow. Light is a smear. Voices echo around him, fading in and out like distant radio stations. Most of them talk about him, not to him. This one is different. And then Jenna almost dropped an entire tray, because Arthur started lecturing the glassware. A warm voice is saying, I swear, that man is more in love with his reflection than any of his wives. Theo's fingers twitch on instinct, as if reaching for a pen to jot the line down. His hand closes on something small and warm. The voice stops. A tiny gasp. Theo. He fights upward like he used to fight for the wall of the pool, when his swim coach yelled one more lap. His eyelids are heavy. His throat is dry. Water. He rasps. It comes out like sand. But the person beside him understands. Cool liquid touches his lips. A hand supports his head. Slowly. The voice murmurs. Do not rush. You have not used your throat in a while. He swallows. It hurts and feels incredible. When he has had enough, the glass is taken away. A thumb brushes a drop of water from his chin. Hi. The voice says, shaky with relief. Welcome back. Theo pries his eyes open. The ceiling is not a hospital ceiling. It is cream-colored, with a chandelier instead of fluorescent tubes. The air smells like linen and herbs, not bleach. He turns his head. It takes more effort than it should. A woman sits on the edge of his bed. Her dark hair is pulled into a messy knot, crumbs of flour on her sleeve. Her eyes are wide and red at the edges. She looks like she has not slept in a while. She looks like she refuses to leave. Who are you? He croaks. She flinches, just for a heartbeat, then squares her shoulders. I am Lucy, she says. Lucy Hart. Your wife. Theo stares. His brain lurches. My what? We got married yesterday, she says. You were in attendance, sort of. Wheelchair, dead roses, no cake. Flashes hit him. Organ music like a bad dream. Heat. A voice in his ear promising not to let him be treated like an object. Fingers lacing with his when everything else felt like it was falling away. The video. He mutters. Her brows knit. What video? Arthur wanted to film it. Theo says. In case I did not. He stops himself before the word die. Do you remember anything else? Lucy asks. He remembers pain. He remembers doctors talking over him. He remembers Arthur telling one of them that certain expensive treatments were not worth it if the outcome was only a few more months. His jaw tightens. How long has it been? He asks. Since the accident, 8 months. Lucy says. Since the hospital sent you home to fade quietly, 3. Since the wedding, less than 24 hours. He looks down. There is a ring on his finger. Simple, cool metal. Her ring matches it. Why? He asks slowly. Would anyone marry a man in a coma? I was told there would be snacks. She says dryly. Also, your uncle and my delightful stepmother arranged a very generous financial package in exchange for my cooperation. Arthur. Theo mutters. Yep. Lucy says. He and Miranda basically auctioned me off. They thought I would stand there and smile while everyone talked about you like you were already in the ground. And did you? He asks. She lifts her chin. No, she says. I did not. She tells him, in quick strokes, about the dead roses, the whispers, the way she stopped in the aisle and told Miranda she was not a product. She tells him about his fingers twitching around hers. I thought I might have imagined that part. She admits, voice soft. But you really did move. I heard you. Theo says. The truth surprises him. Not all the words. Just enough to know someone was angry on my behalf. Her eyes shine. Good. She says. Somebody needed to be. The nurse rushes in then. Eyes huge, followed by staff, followed by a doctor, who almost drops his tablet when Theo lifts his hand. Alive. Theo says. Against the odds. By the time Arthur arrives, 30 minutes later, Theo is propped up with pillows. Lucy sits beside him like a small, stubborn guard dog. Arthur stops dead. Theo. He says after a beat, smile spreading. This is astounding. Is that what we are calling it? Theo asks. You look disappointed. Arthur lets out a polished laugh. On the contrary. He says. We were all praying for this. The doctors told us your chances were slim. We had to consider certain future arrangements. Theo files that away. Lucy leans close to his ear. Brace yourself. She whispers. You are about to become very popular. She is right. For days, the house fills with people who kept their distance when he was half dead. Some are genuinely happy. Others look at him like a stock that climbed when they had already bet on the fall. Through it all, Lucy is there. She times his meds. She argues with nurses who want to switch back to bland shakes. She wheels him to the window so he can feel sun on his face. She talks. She talks about her grandmother, who believed food could keep you alive when doctors gave up. About the heart bankruptcy. About Miranda, who moved in after his mother died and turned Lucy into free labor. About agreeing to marry a stranger, because she thought at least it would save her childhood home. And then they tried to treat you like a coffin with a bank account. She says. That is when I got mad. At them. Theo asks. At everyone. She says. But you were the only one who could not answer back. So I picked your side. One night, when the house is quiet, and the machines hum softly, Theo watches her doze in the chair by his bed, chin tucked against her chest, arms folded. He notices the way she jerks awake every time he shifts, just in case he needs something. Lucy. He says. She blinks. Yeah? Why are you still here? He asks. You already signed what they wanted. Miranda cannot use you anymore. You could leave. She studies him, then looks away. Because I promised. She says. And because it turns out I am stubborn. For the first time in months, Theo smiles without forcing it. I am glad you are. He says. He is not sure yet if he believes in miracles, but he is starting to believe in her. Theo's recovery turns the estate into a circus. Doctors run tests. Lawyers schedule meetings. The board calls emergency sessions. Someone leaks to the press, and suddenly headlines about the Lazarus heir show up on every tabloid site. Lucy ignores the noise and focuses on the things she can control. She drags Theo through his exercises, feeds him, argues with anyone who talks about him like a quarterly report instead of a person. Arthur watches all of it. One afternoon, one woman appears in Lucy's doorway. Mr. Arthur has requested a family dinner, she says, to celebrate Mr. Vincent's progress and to clarify certain matters. Clarify or twist? Lucy mutters. That night the dining room gleams with silver and crystal. The long table is set like a magazine shoot. Vincent relatives drift in, all smiles and perfume, taking their usual places in the unspoken hierarchy. Theo walks in on his own 2 feet. He still uses a cane, but he refuses the wheelchair. Lucy walks at his side, her hand light on his arm. Conversations falter, heads turn. Arthur rises at the head of the table. Theo, he says, spreading his arms. You look remarkable. Recovery suits me. Theo replies. Arthur's gaze flicks to Lucy. And Mrs. Vincent. He says. You look involved. That is one word for it. Lucy says. They sit. The first courses pass in tense small talk. Lucy can feel Arthur waiting for his moment. It comes halfway through the main dish. Arthur taps his glass. If I may. He says, rising. I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate Theo's astonishing recovery. He gestures toward the end of the table, where a screen comes to life with a graph. When the doctors told us his chances were minimal. Arthur continues. We made difficult choices. We focused on keeping him comfortable. Theo's jaw clenches. Lucy squeezes his hand. And then Lucy arrived. Arthur says smoothly. Our new Mrs. Vincent. She took a very active role. She changed his diet, interfered with his medications, adjusted routines designed by professionals. He lifts a folder. At first, the timing suggested her methods helped. He says. But when we had her concoctions tested, we discovered something troubling. He holds up a paper. The herbs she has been feeding him, he announces, contain compounds that can stress the heart. In certain situations, they could be considered toxic. The word toxic hangs in the air. A buzz of whispers rises. Lucy shoves her chair back and stands. That is a lie, she says. It is chicken and ginger. My grandmother fed that to sick neighbors for 40 years. Arthur spreads his hands. We all want to believe that, he says. But the lab report is clear. And when you look at Lucy's background, the heart bankruptcy, Miranda's debts, her obvious motive to secure a comfortable future. He lets the sentence hang. Are we sure? He says softly. That she married Theo to save him, and not to help nature along and cash in on sympathy? Lucy sees red. You smug snake. She spits. You tried to starve him, and now you dare dash. Theo's hand grips her wrist. Sit, he says quietly. His voice is calm and colder than she has ever heard it. She sits. Arthur looks pleased. Theo understands our position. He says to the room. As head of the family, I must ask hard questions. We need clarity. Theo pushes back his chair and stands. The room holds its breath. This is the first time most of them have seen him upright. Clarity, he says. Yes, let us do that. He moves carefully along the table until he stands opposite Arthur at the head. You want to talk about treatment decisions, Theo says. Let us start with how many therapies you blocked while I was unconscious. Arthur blinks. Excuse me. I remember more than you think, Theo says. I remember doctors recommending trials in Boston. I remember you saying they were too expensive, and that the board needed certainty, not hope. Hallucinations, Arthur says quickly. Common in your condition. Maybe, Theo says. So I checked the logs. He nods at Bun Woman. She taps a remote. The graph on the screen disappears, replaced by grainy security footage from the dining room bar. The date stamp is from months ago. The video shows Arthur talking to a doctor. If he stabilizes, the board will keep waiting for him. Arthur says on the recording. We need them to accept he is not coming back. No more experimental therapies. Keep him comfortable. Nothing more. The doctor shifts. The Boston trial is promising. If we move him dash. If he wakes up, every decision I made will be questioned. Arthur cuts in. Do you want that on your record? You owe me. The video ends. Silence crashes over the table. Arthur's face drains of color. That could be edited, he says. Our IT department traced the file. Theo replies. It is clean, just like the fresh tests our internal lab ran on Lucy's soup this afternoon, using samples pulled before your people touched anything. Bun Woman passes papers down the table. The herbs have mild stimulating effects, Theo says. They are sold over the counter in Chinatown. For Mahjong night. They are not poison. He steps closer. Your lab report, however, was forged, he says quietly. The director was out of town when it was signed. The login used came from a laptop registered to your home office. Murmurs sweep the room. You tried to frame my wife as a killer, Theo says. You blocked treatments that could have helped me. You gambled on my death because you wanted my chair. Arthur laughs too loudly. Theo, listen to yourself, he says. You are accusing your own uncle. No judge will buy this. I do not need a judge to change the board, Theo says. The bylaws are clear. Attempted fraud against the company is grounds for removal. He looks at Lucy. As for criminal charges, he adds, that is up to her. Dozens of eyes land on Lucy. Her heart pounds, but her voice is steady. I care less about courtrooms and more about the people you bullied. She says. The nurse you pushed to cut meds. The staff you scared. The way you talked over his body like he was a broken stock. She turns to the head of security. Please escort Mr. Arthur Vincent off the property. She says. His access is revoked. The security chief glances at Theology. Theo nods. Arthur splutters as the guards take his arms. You think he will keep you when he does not need you? Arthur snarls at Lucy. You are a tool. A bandage. He will toss you aside. Lucy smiles, small and hard. That is the difference between you and me. She says. I did not stay because I was useful. I stayed because I gave my word. And because when he woke up, he remembered how to be human. Arthur glares at Theo one last time. You will regret this. He spits. Maybe. Theo says. But not as much as I would regret pretending I did not know what you were. The door closes behind Arthur. For a few seconds no one moves. Then one of Theo's and stands, glass raised. To Theo. She says. And to Lucy. For bringing him back. One by one, glasses rise. Later, as they walk back to Theo's room, Lucy blows out a breath. I cannot believe I fired your uncle in front of your entire family. She says. Theo laughs, tired but real. I cannot believe I let you go first. He says. You stole my big dramatic exit. Next time. She says, bumping his shoulder. We can rehearse. He looks at her, at the woman who married his coma, and then went to war for him. Lucy. He says quietly. Thank you. For what? She asks. For standing between me and him when no one else ever did. He says. She shrugs, looking away. Somebody had to, she says. I figured it might as well be your ridiculous soup wife. Once Arthur is gone and Miranda is dragged back to her own wreckage, the Vincent estate changes. It is still big and intimidating, but the air inside lightens. Staff who used to move like ghosts start laughing in hallways. The kitchen becomes noisy. Theo's office door stays open more often. For the first time in a long time, the mansion feels like a place where people live, not just wait. It also turns out to be a terrible place to hide from a man who has decided you are his favorite person. You know you are stalking me, Lucy says one afternoon, stirring a pot on the stove. Theo leans in the doorway, cane in one hand, the other shoved in his pocket. His color is better now. Physical therapy has rebuilt some of the muscle the illness stole. He looks like a man coming back to himself. I am supervising. He says. Arthur made some compelling points about your dangerous soup. Lucy flicks a pea at him. If you repeat his charts, I am putting kale in everything you eat. He shudders. I take it back. You are my hero. He comes closer, drawn by the smell of garlic and ginger. What are we having? He asks. We. She echoes. That is bold. Lucy. He says, dead serious. I woke up and there was soup. I have imprinted on you like a baby duck. There is no we without soup. She snorts, but she is smiling. Chicken rice with extra ginger. She says. Your grandmother called. She wants her brand back. They move around each other in the kitchen with growing ease. He chops slow, she chops fast. He washes dishes, she bosses him about how to stack them. When he winces reaching for a pan, Lucy sets her spoon down. Sit. She orders, pointing at a stool. He hesitates. Do not argue. She says. You already almost face-planted in here once. I barely caught you and I am not redoing that. He sits. She steps behind him and presses her fingers into his shoulders. What are you doing? He asks, amused. Checking how much you have been pretending you are fine. She says. The muscles at the base of his neck are knotted hard. She works carefully, thumbs pressing, palms smoothing. He exhales despite himself. You are not a physical therapist. He says. No. She says. I am a granddaughter of a woman who refused to accept back pain. Now hush. He hushes. The kitchen is warm. The only sounds are the simmering pot and the faint clatter of Jenna loading the dishwasher and pretending not to listen. Lucy's hands are steady and sure. Lucy. Theo says after a minute, eyes half closed. Why did you really stay? I told you. She says. I promised. People break promises. He says quietly. Especially when the person they made them to cannot chase them down. She digs her fingers a little harder between his shoulders. He groans. That is for doubting my integrity. She says. He laughs. But seriously. He says. You had every reason to run. My family was awful. Miranda was worse. Even after I woke up, you could have told the lawyers you were done. Could I? She asks. I do not know. I never looked at the fine print. Maybe that is why Miranda always thought I was stupid. She falls quiet for a second, then sighs. When my father lost everything, everyone disappeared. She says. People who toasted my mother at parties pretended not to know us. After she died, Miranda moved in and I became free labor. Her hands keep moving on his back, but her voice drifts. I told myself if I swallowed enough, if I kept my head down, something good would eventually happen. She says. It never did. He opens his eyes and looks over his shoulder. When your uncle offered the deal, she says. I thought at least I could save the house. My mother's paintings. A piece of something. Then I saw how they talked about you, like you were already gone. She leans closer, her breath warm against his ear. I picked your side in that chapel before I knew you. She says. When you grabbed my hand, it felt like someone was finally picking mine. He swallows. Lucy. He says softly. She circles around to stand in front of him. Her hands are still dusted with flour. A small streak of ginger clings to her wrist. What? She asks. He looks up at her. Can I kiss you? He asks. He did not plan to say it. It just slips out, pulled by something bigger than both of them. Her eyes widen. We are married. She says slowly. Technically, you already skipped several steps. I know. He says quickly. You did not exactly sign up for a conscious husband, and I do not want to assume. And if this is weird, we can pretend I never asked and I will just go back to supervised soup duties and. She leans in and kisses him. The first kiss is soft and brief, like a question. The second is not. He lifts a hand to her cheek and pulls her closer. They bump noses once and laugh into each other, then adjust. When they finally pull apart, both of them are breathing harder. Okay, she says, dazed. That was not terrible. High praise. He says, grinning. A spoon clatters behind them. Jenna coughs loudly. If you two are done making out over the stove. She says, cheeks pink. Your sauce is about to burn. Lucy yelps and spins back to the pot. Theo laughs and leans on the counter, watching her with a soft, amazed look. That night, when he falls asleep, Lucy lies in her own bed down the hall, staring at the ceiling. She came here as a debt payment, a placeholder bride for a dying man. Somewhere between dead roses and a burned sauce, she got something she did not ask for. Hope. It is terrifying. But every time she closes her eyes, she feels again the way his hand tightened in hers in that chapel, weak but deliberate, and the way he asked before he kissed her, even though every contract in this house says he does not have to. Yeah. She whispers into the dark. I am in trouble. The good kind, for once. 1 year later, the Vincent estate does not look like a haunted house. The walls are the same. The lawns are still too perfect. The driveway still curves like a question mark. But there is chalk on the front steps now, a crooked sun and 2 wobbly stick figures. There is a swing hanging from the old oak tree. There is a trail of small sneakers from the back door to the playroom. And in the chapel where Lucy once walked alone with dead roses, there are fresh flowers everywhere. How do you feel? Jenna whispers, fussing with the veil. Nervous? Excited? Ready to bolt? Lucy looks at herself in the mirror. This dress fits. The lace does not itch. The bouquet is full and bright. She looks like a bride, not a bargain. I feel right. She says. Jenna smiles. Good. You deserve right. The organ starts up beyond the door. This time the music sounds like it wants to be here. When Lucy steps into the chapel, the pews are full. Not just Vincent's. A few old neighbors from Queens. The woman who used to run the noodle shop under her grandmother's apartment. Nurses who took care of Theo without listening to Arthur. At the end of the aisle, Theo waits. He is standing on his own, no cane. The months of therapy show in the way he holds himself. There are still faint scars along his hairline, but his eyes are clear and bright. He watches her walk like she is the only person in the room. Halfway down the aisle, he steps forward to meet her. It feels like they are choosing this together. Hi. He says softly. You look dangerous. You look like you are making a very dramatic life choice. She says. He squeezes her hand. Best one I ever made. This time, when the priest says, Dearly beloved. His smile is real. We are gathered here to celebrate the marriage of Theo Vincent and Lucy Hart. He says. For real this time. The vows are simple. I, Theo. Theo says. Take you, Lucy, not as a business solution, or a last-minute fix, but as the woman who shouted for me when I could not speak. I promise to be your partner, not your project. I promise to listen when you tell me I am being a coward. I promise to choose you even when the board is screaming. Lucy laughs through tears. Lucy. She says, voice shaking. Take you, Theo, not as a way out of debt, not as a burden, but as the man who woke up and decided to fight back. I promise to bring you soup when you pretend you are fine. I promise to call you out when you start acting like a Vincent robot. I promise to stay when it would be easier to run. They slide new rings onto each other's fingers, engraved on the inside with today's date. By the power vested in me. The priest says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Please kiss your wife like the first wedding never happened. Theo does. The chapel explodes in cheers. Later, under strings of lights in the garden, Lucy and Theo watch their twins wobble across the grass. Lena is chasing her brother with a plastic tiara. Max, stop. She shrieks. You have to be the prince. No. Max yells, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. I am the dragon. Lucy laughs until her sides hurt. Is it bad that I relate to the dragon? She asks. Theo slips an arm around her waist. I relate to the tiara. He says. I like shiny things. She leans into him. Do you ever think about the first wedding? He asks. Sometimes. She says. Mostly when I walk into the chapel, and the air does not smell like doom anymore. She looks up at him. I remember the dead roses. She says. I remember Miranda whispering in my ear. I remember thinking I was walking into a sentence, not a ceremony. And? He asks. And I remember your hand moving. She says. Weak as it was the first time in months anyone had reached back when I reached out. Theo kisses the top of her head. Arthur called you temporary. He says. I think he was wrong. Lucy snorts. Arthur was wrong about a lot of things. She says. Including soup. News about Miranda and Arthur sometimes floats into the house. Lucy does not go looking for it. She knows enough. Miranda burned through what she had, and is renting a room above a laundromat. Arthur is learning that prison food is very different from Vincent banquets. The important people are here. Jenna is in the corner of the yard teaching Max how to stir without splashing. Lena is trying to climb onto Theo's office chair whenever he leaves the door open. Theo's mother is arguing with Lucy's aunt about whose dumplings are better. You know the tabloids still call me the shock bride. Lucy says later, when the twins finally pass out and the guests drift home. They love that phrase. The girl who married the almost dead billionaire. Theo opens the back door and leads her onto the steps. The night is cool. Stars show faintly above the tree line. They are wrong. He says. I am not almost dead anymore, and the billionaire part was never the interesting bit. She bumps his shoulder. What is the interesting part then, Mr. Vincent? She asks. He takes her hand. That you walked into a room where everyone was waiting for me to die. He says. And decided to teach me how to live instead. She leans her head on his shoulder. You helped. She says. You actually woke up. That was a big part of the plan. They sit in comfortable silence for a while. Ask me again. She says suddenly. Ask you what? The question you asked in the kitchen. She says. Back then. He smiles in the dark. Can I kiss you? He asks. Every day. She says. As long as we both want to. He kisses her. It feels new and familiar at once. Inside the house, two toddlers sleep in matching beds. In the chapel, flowers slowly close in the dark. In the quiet, the echoes of an ugly, rushed wedding fade under the laughter and music of the second one. The world will keep calling their story what it wants. Shock marriage. Miracle recovery. Gossip. Lucy and Theo have their own word for it. Home.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.